No way, Jose.
The following footage proves beyond any doubt that the tanks intentionally set the house on fire. It proves that the Branch Davidians were murdered. You can see that this tank has a gas jet on the front that shoots fire. You can also see the fire quite plainly. The tank goes into the house twice, and each time as it backs out, the fire at the gas jet is plainly visible.
We must all do more to recognize and look for the early warning signals that deeply troubled young people send.
Good morning, good morning. Welcome to the Morning Dump. This is where we just kind of shoot the shit with you guys, kind of go through threads, articles, and stuff along those lines. Kind of the stuff that I was going to research on my own anyways. This is more of like a fresh, relaxed, almost research environment. So if this is kind of shindig that you are here for, then here we are. I do have Austin with me today. Sorry, I see Ray in here saying 5 minutes late. I am 5 minutes late. My bad. Just wrapping up, setting some things up behind the scenes before we get started. Didn't think anyone would mind too much. Honestly, I'm way more than 5 minutes late, although I don't really have a set time for these. I've been doing them usually around like 10 Eastern, but my day was all thrown off today. I mean, it's almost 11:30 Eastern right now, so yeah, we're starting late today. Got Tommy in the chat saying, morning, Jose. Sup, nerds? What's up, everybody? Glad to have you guys back. Sorry I wasn't there last night for Already Dead. I had some last-minute things come up, but luckily, we were smart enough to set up a format for that show to where, like, hey, if one of us can't make it for that point, cool. I think Austin's in like a month or something needs to be bounced, so there might be an episode or two here and there where it'll be me and Jules as well. So just get used to that. And then if Jules ever quits, just so throwing that out there, guys, hey, that's a perk of being a producer of Already Dead, is you may be able to pop on the show occasionally. So just keeping that in mind. All right, one more thing before we bring Austin on and we get into actual content for the day. I do want to take a moment while we wait for the chat to roll in to remind you that today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at NWJ Shave Co. If you're tired of that razor burn, the irritation, those ingrown hairs you get from those multi-blade cartridges, then this is the way to go. Go back traditional shave. You can shave just like your grandpa used to, whether you're shaving your entire face or just edging of your beard. The single blades give you a barber grade shave for a fraction of the price. The standard issue includes one traditional safety razor and a box of 100 stainless steel razor blades. That puts you out at about $75. That's, roundabout supposed to allow you, give you a year of shaving. Let's be real, unless you're shaving on the reg, that is nowhere near it. I mean, I've barely put a dent in mine. I shave maybe once a month, edge up a little bit here and there. So yeah, mine I've barely put a dent in. So if you're someone like me that has shaves like that, it's going to last you a really long time. This is way better value than you get from this multi-blade bullshit. But if you're someone who shaves on the regular, you may want to consider the Quarter Shave Club. That puts you at about 25 cents per replacement blade. That's still way cheaper than the alternative, because if you're shaving on the daily, you're going to be using the multi-blade cartridges on the daily. If anything, you're getting more of a value out of this than you are out of the normal standard. But if I do also remind you guys that he has shave soaps. He also has a 3-in-1 body, hair, and face soap. I'm a big fan of both of those. Check them out. This is a COVID mandate refusing company. This company was literally born out of refusing the mandate. Old Nadeau here. He got the choice to get the poke or get the hell out of the military, and he got the hell out of the military, and he started up Nadeau Shave Co. So use Jose at checkout for 10% off your entire order. Support those who support your values, and this is definitely a company that does that. So with that, let's go ahead and get Austin in here and get into it. What's up, my friend? How you doing?
Good, brother. How's it going, man?
Good. Just tired. I was telling you, I don't think I told these guys, but yeah, I've been up every other hour over the night just because I've been feeding kitty cats. So I am exhausted. That's part of what threw off my morning. I do want to let you guys know out there, I'm probably going to stream tomorrow and Friday as well. I'm sorry, I know I said no more housekeeping, but it just came to mind. So I likely will be doing a morning dump Thursday and Friday, so roughly around 10 in the morning Eastern. But I will not be doing my normal weekly No Way Jose episode. I mean, there will be one that drops for the for you normies out here that don't give me money, but for the patrons, there will not be one in there this week because I didn't even realize, because I normally, the way this works is I have mornings available on Wednesday, Thursdays, and Fridays. That's like, it's just a time frame that I have available, and I do these morning shows. And then on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I have at like around nighttime I have available. Tuesday is already dead. Wednesday is Tower Gang, and then on Thursdays I try to knock out like a No Way Jose episode. This Thursday's Thanksgiving. I almost actually scheduled it because that's how out of touch I am and how much I forget. Like, and then it was like yesterday that I was like about to hit up the guy and I was like, wait, fuck, I can't ask him to come on Thanksgiving. There's no way. And plus, I should take the day off. So, I mean, I will probably be doing a morning stream on Thanksgiving, but I probably will not be doing the paywalled, No Way Jose episode. So, sorry about that, patrons. I think you'll forgive me. I've been putting out more content lately, and it is Thanksgiving. Sorry. One more thing. I changed over my podcast host to Spreaker. So the only reason I'm letting you guys know that there shouldn't be any issues, but if for any reason you guys experience any issues on the audio side of things, please let me know. Because I know you guys probably don't know the logistics of this, but you have your like hosts and they send it out to all the different places. So there could be an issue. Like, I'm not checking iTunes, I'm not checking Spotify, I'm not going to every little podcast player to see if my stuff is there. Like, they're just distributing it. So if you go to whatever your player is, if for some reason it's not showing up, like I should have two that I'm dropping sometime today, the Already Dead episode from last night, and this one will be going up on the audio podcatchers. If for some reason you're not seeing it on your audio podcatcher by like tomorrow, let me know. That way I know there's some sort of issue and it's not distributing it properly or, whatever. So just let me know. Bear with me if there are any issues. I'm just giving you a heads up. There may be. But, I swapped over host. There's some better perks for using that one. But hopefully that doesn't cause any headache in the meantime. But sorry, guys, we have Austin with us today. As I said, we had Already Dead. I wanted to talk to you to follow up on our conversation. I should have probably saved the tweet, but whatever. We last time I had you on the morning dump, we talked about how we had Sam on recently, and he after the show was like, "Hey, you guys need to come on the show." And we kind of were like talking about ideas of what we would like to talk about, because he didn't really have anything in mind. He was kind of like, well, you can kind of do this or that. Like, it seemed to be he totally was willing to be led in the sense of like, hey, wow, if we email him, like, whenever they ask for bullet points of things we can talk about, boom, 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 this. So I threw up, me and you had kind of came up with the idea of either two different themes, and I also put out a tweet for them in a poll format to kind of get you guys' idea of what you guys like better. And the idea was, one was like all the different suicides out there, which obviously if you watch Already Dead, it's literally like our intro. So that was kind of the point, because we're doing an Already Dead episode. It'd be me and Austin on tinfoil hat. So it'd be like, hey, that would make sense to kind of do our theme, like our motif. Right. But we've also been digging a lot into like Gladio type stuff, and then also we tend to, I don't really know, maybe we need to find a better term for this, better way to float this idea out there. And I'm sure other people have already got this idea. Maybe they call it something else. I mean, octopus, I feel like almost hits what we're getting at. But it's like, you know what I mean? It's almost like a different thing. It's the idea of like with Gladio and how Gladio kind of has become like almost an everything conspiracy, because this is obviously something we'd cover on with Sam, but it's like, I think part of that is because of the fact that it needs to be so lean. If you think about what it's doing, that it's like, hey, it needs to have its own money situation. It probably needs some sort of access to mind control type stuff, depending on what they're doing. So it makes sense to keep it tight. And so it's almost like there's so many different nodes to this one little conspiracy, because people think of Gladio and they just think of false flags. But and that is what it is. But there's like so much more that there's like you can dig back into the roots in Nazism. There's SRA. There's
direct connections to cult organizations and private mercenary contracting. Yeah, 100%. And it's the honestly, Belgian Gladio is the perfect example of that, because you have exactly. you have aristocracy, elite oligarchs that are legitimately in the most powerful positions in the state of Belgium at the time, and they are directly, implicated in being involved at the pink ballets. But beyond that, I mean, you have the OTS as well, right? So I mentioned the cult organizations. The Order of the Solar Temple has a Gladio connection, right? I mean, they're infiltrating Hydro-Quebec, right? The hydroelectric company in Canada. And and the level of control, there's as well as staging domestic terror operations in many different ways too. And laundering money, which tends to be kind of a primary factor that is
then it becomes drug trafficking, which becomes human trafficking, which becomes gun trafficking, which is whatever it means.
Assassinations.
Yeah, see what I mean? We're already like, there's so many different nodes. They're all their own little separate conspiracies rolled into one here.
Man.
Yeah. So, and I'm going to, I guess this is sort of housekeeping, although not really. I'm going to probably for the next, I don't know how many of these morning dumps it'll take me to go through, but you shared this article, and we covered it a little bit in last time you were on. It's called Beyond the Dutroux Affair, The Reality of Protected Child Abuse and Snuff Networks. And it just skimming through, I've read probably maybe, if I had to guess, a quarter or a third of it. It's pretty damn long on my own, which I haven't been reading these ahead of time. Usually it's kind of been the ideas for raw, fresh stuff, but it also works to kind of certain things I feel like need to be presented to the audience or to you guys. Like, for example, the Dutroux Affair. Most people may not be aware of it or know a little bit in there, but very few people are intimately aware of the details or anything like that. And so I think that what I want to do is the next few of these is I'm going to probably the last half hour or so of each show, I'm just going to read through that because it's pretty damn long, but it goes very into details. And this is one of those ones that's almost like I feel like it's necessary for people because this is what people refer to as crazy sauce, or like, oh, why are you throwing this into things? It makes you seem not credible. It's like, okay, well, let's fucking take about an hour and a half to 3 hours and go through all the minute details of all the different things, this dossier, that thing, this thing, that thing, and see how you feel at the end of this, because that may not be how you feel, and I think it's one of those ones you got to beat people over the head with. So. And also, I think the Dutroux Affair is probably one of the best intersections of kind of what we are getting at for the theory of because it's basically directly connected to the Gladio essentially, and then like they have all the nodes in there that we mentioned. There was the Dutroux and the hypnotizing show. Yeah. Well, actually, it wasn't Dutroux, but it was. The two of the girls he kidnapped had been to a hypnotism show before that. Yeah. There was drugs involved, lots of drugs. So it's like trafficking. Like, yeah.
Oh yeah, and he was drugging them, and he was using. He had manuals for hypnotism and mind control that he was utilizing to place them in a trance, and then of course condition them to essentially fall in love with their abuser. In many ways, and that's legitimately what had happened to them, which is why when they were rescued, they were, basically, they were hanging all over Dutroux, attempting to kiss him. Like, it was very strange, right? And they were had already been like essentially, they were in this makeshift dungeon that he had created in his basement, and he had them like nude on their hands and knees, scrubbing the floors and things of that nature. Terrible stories when you read through that dossier. And I think you're really going to love the Hosanna episode that I do because the parallels are absurd. But,
you said it's based off season 1 of True Detective, which by the way,
I think is the best
just started True Detective. I started the first episode. It'll probably take me forever to get through it because I don't watch a ton of TV, and I'll probably be like maybe an episode a week. But I will say first entry, pretty compelling. Very good. But you're saying that's what it's based off of, is the Hosanna one.
Yeah, that first season for sure. It's kind of like, that first season I remember watching when it first came out, and I was really just shocked and kind of like startled by the whole approach because it was very much in the vein of reality, but I wasn't yet aware of how realistic really kind of the portrayal was, right? Until I've basically just been researching and investigating all these various networks myself, and through that the veil was removed. But yeah, it's honestly, it's one of those things that I don't really find you know, I don't really find it necessary to rewatch because it's dark as hell. And
Mm.
but I think that season one was so special that maybe with just like, you know, the vision and perspective I have now, I should go back and rewatch and see how I feel. Because I do know that there are like legitimate characters based
Mm.
entirely on like real
Yeah.
life individuals
I mean,
in
I've
that.
only watched the first episode, obviously, so I don't entirely know. But I put out a tweet that was kind of like, "Hey, I'm watching this. What should I expect?" And I saw there were a few people that kind of made comments around that way of like, "I'm glad I watched it again later." You know, as if like someone that was like after they kind of delved into the topics that me and you tend to go into, and they were like, "Holy shit!" So like, although it's weird because it seems like the first episode was pretty hitting us over the head with it. Although maybe if you were a kind of a normal person that just wasn't aware of the reality of things like SRA, that maybe, or you know, some of the networks out there, that maybe this would just kind of be like, whoa, what a dark, interesting show, as
Mhm.
opposed to like when me or you watch it. Maybe, I mean, obviously, I've only watched the first episode. We'll be like, holy fuck, these
Yeah,
motherfuckers are spitting truth.
100%, man. Yep. I that is exactly how I felt. And also, I think it's interesting the character dynamic between Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey's character.
Yeah.
It's very good, very
Mhm.
good. I was impressed. McConaughey, it's honestly it's one of my favorite characters that he's ever played. I think,
Mhm.
and he's very much sort of a nihilist in many ways. You know, almost like
Yeah.
disillusioned by religion in almost every facet, but a very philosophical person in
He's
his
literally
approach.
the parody of what people talk about when they talk about atheists or whatever.
100%,
And
yeah.
like, okay, whatever.
100%,
Which
man.
it's like, I get it. Okay, not to go too philosophical, but people always think like it's that like, oh, if you don't believe there's a God, then like you just like nothing matters, and you're like, but
Exactly.
there's like, what is it, absurdism, or there's also like a, or I think it might even be called absurdist nihilism. There's different types of nihilism. I forget, but it is the idea of that like nothing matters, but you do make your own. Like,
Yeah,
you know, like it's the idea of like you make your own path in life. You make your own like you know, what's the word I'm looking for, reasons to like, or
right.
whatever. So like,
Yeah,
so yeah, nothing matters, but like in a sense, like in a cosmic sense, but there's obviously things that matter because I matter, you matter, like
right.
you know, like our experiences matter because we exist, and
Definitely.
it's really that just that simple. So it's like because we exist, it's like we can have a shitty existence, or we can try to have an existence that you know, lifts everybody up to the best extent possible. You know,
Right.
so without like going to like communism or some shit, you know,
Absolutely, man.
because that doesn't actually do
100%.
that. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
Sorry, there's a
I'm
bit of
trying to
a. Go ahead.
Oh, I think it's really you're gonna love it, man, because it's exactly what we talk about and discuss
Mm-hmm.
in a very at a very deep level, and so it's in that vein entirely, but it's kind of interesting because it almost ends with this sort of I'm not gonna ruin anything for you, but it the philosophical perspective of it is kind of like this age old battle of darkness, right, versus the light, right? Goodness versus evil. And yeah, light versus dark. And it's poetic, but I think it honestly ends in a sort of positive note, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is like we have the ability to root out this darkness, right? At you know, I think that it's at least a valuable conclusion that if
Mm-hmm.
we potentially can expose as much of this as possible and consistently attempt to further expose these individuals, you know, who are tragically abusing the most vulnerable among us, then th- how is that not some sort of victory, right, for the greater good, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And so it's like, man, as as devastating as the darkness truly becomes when you're in the excruciating details of these poor, you know, abused victims, um, you know, man, like I think just covering these things is a positive
Mm-hmm.
because so many people just want to bury their head in the sand and run away screaming because it's so dark and it's so disturbing. But
Mm-hmm.
man, only through discussing these things at this level of depth will we be able to kind of root these things out at their core influential level, derailing and subverting kind of the moral framework and moral fabric of all of global society in more ways than one. And that's why it's such a good example to say, like, well, like-minded people seem to, approach each other and coexist and find each other through, you can kind of like see yourself in other people, right? And I think that you can identify characteristics that you share with people. And so therefore, just as in a positive light, we find each other because we happen to share common interests. Well, so do monsters, right?
Yep.
So do the most evil people among us. And so that's why I believe that, the government itself is just basically a consolidated group of psychopaths who want to wield power over the rest of us. And
yeah, that's kind of like, it's funny in a certain sense, as funny as it is, kind of the thesis that we're getting at is essentially boiling things down to their root components, and that literally is just government. Like, so like in a certain sense, in an abstract sense, the thesis we're proposing is just government. Yep. That's what they do.
Exactly.
All right, let's get into some content. I'm trying to keep this one a little bit short today. All right, here is one from the great Richard Booth. You can follow him at OKC_facts. You can expect to probably get a lot of threads from here soon, because he's a lot of old ones that I have bookmarked from forever ago that I've been meaning to get to at some point. Because every now and then, Richard will just drop like a dope thread, and then I just sometimes I'll have time to read it at that point in time. Sometimes I won't. A lot of times I'll bookmark it, forget to come back to it later. Luckily, I have this show now, so here we are, and this is my coming back to it later, and this is me actually coming back to it later, because now I have a show and more of a reason to do so. So, yeah, this is Richard. He's the guy I did my Oklahoma City bombing series on, for those who haven't watched it. So go check out go look in the playlists on my channel, and you will see OKC bombing with a picture of Terrence Yeeke on there as the thumbnail, and that is around 20 hours, probably over 3/4 of which is a series I did with Richard, and then the rest of it is like interviews with people like Tanya Yeeke, Steve Vassar, and some other stuff. I also have an interview with Ken Silva, because he's also a big OKC guy. But anyways, interesting throwback from J.D. Cash's reporting in the McCurtain Gazette on February 4th, 1996, in a piece titled "Mystery Surrounds Germans' Link to Bombing." J.D. Vance writes, "See, we got a theme today with Gladio. You'll see." On April 16th, a helicopter arrived at dawn and hovered at treetop level, 75 feet from Andy Strassmeyer's place, then disappeared. For the rest of the day, fixed-wing aircraft circled the area off and on. Was FBI surveillance looking for an asset they thought had gone rogue? And here's an article proving that. This is from J.D. Cash. It says, but what do they do? Remember, was that on April 16th, the day prosecutors contend McVeigh came to Oklahoma City to leave his car, a helicopter hovered near Strassmeyer's home. The helicopter arrived at dawn and hovered at treetop level very briefly, just 75 feet or so from Andy's plane, then disappeared, Millar said. Which Millar is, God, what's his name? I always forget his first name. I forget exactly what he did. There's so many different racist guys there. Millar is, I want to say he's a running Elohim, or I always mix him up with somebody else. Anyways, he's one of the big dogs in the white power movement, or whatever you want to call it. For the rest of the day, fixed-wing aircraft circled the area off and on. Could anyone but a federal agency have had such access to such aircraft? It is possible, but to those who suspect Strassmeyer of being an undercover agent is one more piece of the puzzle that seems to suggest he was very possibly an undercover agent. Obviously this is just kind of somewhat anecdotal. I don't know. I see planes over my house all the day. Sometimes when we get a little bit more schizophrenic, I go, what the fuck is that thing doing? But,
Ray Liotta.
Yeah. If Andy was this FBI asset, then why is it presumably FBI aerial surveillance looking for him on April 16th? This email from Danny Colson, who was the guy who ran the investigation for the Oklahoma City bombing, to J.D. Cash, dated was that August 6th, 2005. Colson says he thinks Andy went native and became involved in the crime. And here is the email. This is pure speculation and totally off the record for now. I think that Andy Strassmeyer was working for the Germans or Israel. I think that the
Oh
leadership,
my
of,
God.
which yeah, I mean that has been a thing out there for a while. That dude was
Yeah, he went to the kibbutz, right?
He spoke Hebrew. He lived at a
Yeah,
kibbutz for a while. He
yeah.
ran drills with the IDF, and so
It
it's
sounds like the psychopath machine, dude.
yeah, he made
The same
comments.
thing.
Yeah, he made some comments about the Mossad, and kind of, which I mean, don't get me wrong, they weren't like confirmed either or denied that he like did anything with him, but it kind of he made some statements that kind of implied, I think you may have had a little bit more to do with Mossad. You may be a little bit more familiar than you would think. Someone who's the head of security of Elohim City would.
Exactly.
A white power, kind of stronghold, essentially. So why does this dude speak German or not German? Speak Hebrew? Why did he live in a kibbutz? A lot of weird stuff with him. So I think
Al Gore wasn't he the one who especially requested for this German military intelligence asset, Andreas Strassmeyer, to come over to the U.S. to help run domestic operations with the CIA? I think Al Gore had a direct connection to requesting Andreas Strassmeyer's. Yeah, I remember that.
I'd be interested in that. I saw someone in the, I believe it was Dr. Corbeau. He's one of our frequent appearances in the stream over on Already Dead. So he doesn't really, I don't really ever see him in these morning streams. So I'm assuming afternoons or work better for him. But either way, beside the point, I saw him mention something too about, to our point about Gladio and like the everything Gladio bagel that we were referring to. He made some sort of comment in the chat about something that there was human trafficking involved with McVeigh and or some of his compatriots. So like, I'm like wondering where that is. I'd be interested if anyone knows anything about that. Send me over some information, because I mean I don't know. I mean there was a period of time where McVeigh, I'm reading through Bad Company right now, where he was pretty methed out. So it's like in those type of circles, I wouldn't be surprised if there also was a human trafficking component. But I don't know anything about it, so I'd be interested to learn more.
Wasn't there an individual distributing pornography?
Yep, Roger Moore. Roger Moore. He was literally a pornographer. Now we don't know what. One of the things he got busted for was, I want to say this is one of those things, because part of his lore is he got busted multiple times by different federal agencies. I think that the one I remember the best is probably the ATF one, where he tried to sell them explosives. But I don't remember if he tried to sell if it was porn or if it was the ATF he tried to sell porn, or what agency it was. But he made some sort of comment about like porn obtained from a. What was the way he phrased it? I forget. We talked about it.
I think CP. That's what it made.
Yes, and I talked about this with Richard on my series, and because that was the first thing he mentioned, something about they got him for having porn, like he was under investigation for some sort of like porn or something, and then we're like, wait, what? And I don't know where the details of this would be, if there are any, but it seems pretty scant. So I don't know. I mean, the Dutroux affair, they fucking literally gave back like incriminating CP to his wife. Exactly. So it's like, I don't know. Is it that crazy that like maybe they just like once they realized Roger Moore was some sort of asset, they just went, oh, whatever. But there was, I wish I could remember the details of that one. There was something to do with porn with one of his ones, and the way he said it to the informant of like, oh, I can get you porn from a something sort of source or something, or I forget. But either way, came off as suspicious, because who the fuck is like, I mean, I know it was the 90s, but like who was like buying porn in that way?
For real.
So it would have to be some sort of weird porn, because it's like, like even in the 90s, like I get it. It was a different landscape for porn in the 90s than it is now. It was like, people were getting Hustlers and stuff like that, like magazines. But like if you were getting it from some seedy dude, what are you doing? A different kind of porn. Yeah, absolutely. what is this? But yeah, there's definitely Roger Moore. Yeah, he's the one. So he's the one who was also a FBI informant and a CIA informant or asset or some shit. Which these are things are like basically confirmable, which is what Jesse Trent is currently pursuing in court right now. So this is what he's doing. He essentially has found documents that basically confirm this, and he then put that up to them to kind of be like, hey, he clearly was working for you guys. You clearly have documents type deal. So fucking So because that's kind of how what he's been doing with these FOIA, lawsuits. He's been doing a lot of times is he will he will essentially submit a FOIA request for something, let's say surveillance videos, and then he'll find something, get some sort of source from somebody out there, and it'll be like something that proves that the thing he's asking for exists. That way they can't be like, oh, that doesn't exist, and they look like shit, when they lie. A lot of times he would do it after the fact. I think there were a couple times where he like legit would like after the fact, he would like have it in his back pocket, kind of like request this, knowing they're going to say, oh, we don't have it, and then he can kind of slam that table, kind of be like, here you go, judge. And then the judge gets to be like, oh shit, they're literally lying to me.
Right. That's so great.
So
he's brilliant, man.
Yeah. No, he's great. It says, so anyways, I think Andy went native and event actually became involved in the crime. They were afraid that when this came out, it would be curtains for many higher ups, and they stopped the investigation. I don't believe it's quite that simple. This is Richard. I suspect that Andy was handled into a position where he started taking orders from a non-FBI source comprised of intelligence or former intelligence officials, thus allowing them to hijack the bombing sting, which is kind of what I'm getting at. That's we've talked about this before, ops within ops. So this is because there was PatCon going on, but I don't think when I make an allusion to this being the Oklahoma City bombing being some sort of Gladio op, I'm not saying the FBI did it, because I know we talk about PatCon a lot, and so a lot of people might then connect the dots and go, oh, Jose is saying PatCon did this, and in a certain sense, sort of, but no, I think it was literally an op within PatCon that essentially caused it to go live, and that's what Richard's implying here too. Right. If Andy is using a cutout to communicate with his handlers, he would have no idea if his FBI superiors had somehow been removed and replaced with bad actors. Likely those connected to all those spooks who surrounded Andy, in my opinion. It's a good point. They can play with how you get your information to kind of throw you off. So, because they're saying he's using a cutout, so all you would have to do is get to the cutout and then, essentially change out the information. In that scenario, then Andreas Strassmeyer continues to believe he's operating as this informant, but when he's pushing hard for assassinations, bombings, mass shootings in the fall of '94, by then he's fallen to the hands of being someone's other than the FBI's asset. Whomever that someone is, those who hijacked control of Strassmeyer, those who comprise the FBI sting, they would be those ultimately responsible for both the act and the ensuring that there was a cover-up by compromising an existing FBI operation, which forces them to CYA, cover your ass. Mm-hmm. The way this is pulled off is you take one of the FBI's key assets connected up to the sting, then you take control of him because he is using a cutout to communicate back to FBI or presumably receive PatCon instructions. If that cutout is compromised, and let's assume the cutout was the SPLC, which this was an informant group during this time. I believe it was the SPLC that said they saw, the head of the SPLC that said they saw McVeigh at Elohim City well over a dozen times. So, it's between all his people. So that's probably honestly, that's probably one of the best little pieces of tidbits of information that connect him to Elohim City. So, definitely. And there are lots of things that seem to imply SPLC may have been working hand in hand. Which I don't even what is the SPLC? Do you? I mean, I know what they are, but I don't know what kind of organization they are. Because I really feel like the Southern
Poverty Law Center is basically. I don't know exactly what their role is, other than,
Well, I meant what kind of organization? Are they a NG? Right. What because I'm saying are they are they some sort of and what's the word I'm looking for? Almost like a charity type thing. Not charity. What's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. Anyways, my point being is I'm just kind of wondering how the structure of something like that works.
It's a nonprofit for sure.
There you go. That's what I was saying. If it's a nonprofit, because I think nonprofits are really open to government manipulation.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Which
it's an age-old tactic. Yeah. I mean, Operation Chaos was they had been establishing proprietary companies and fronts and covers for domestic operations for decades, right?
Yeah.
And it's pretty amazing.
I wonder if Richard is implying the cutout here is Roger, because Roger is the one who has connections to CIA and FBI, so he would kind of be an interesting point man to be the one that then kind of co-ops this. I think that's typically how a lot of people imagine this, is that Roger Moore was the one who kind of co-opted it, but I just wonder if maybe he was seated in both. So if he's the cutout, the informational cutout, although there's nothing, although I don't know if I've ever actually I don't know if that works, because I don't know if any I don't know anything of whether Strassmeyer has ever been known to communicate with Moore, because that's so I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here, and I'm low on sleep, so I'm a little out. Once that is done, go ahead.
It just makes sense that
Yeah.
you know, really it's par for the course to compartmentalize these operations, especially if it's some sort of, covert, clandestine domestic operation,
And you're going to silo these into as few nodes as possible. So like as Richard's getting at here, it's like it leaves it, while it is work better in a sense for deception, it also leaves it super open for infiltration, essentially, because it's like all you need is one or two key figures in certain areas. Which ironically, this works in both ways. This works so the government can conduct something, or bad actors, say like a CIA with an FBI or whatever, or you can just straight up just have the FBI do something, and then just like, and then they're able to go, they're able to play, I don't know, what's a plausible deniability kind of thing, because you only have like a few key points here and there that can swing things one way or another. So I don't know. The point being is you can easily manipulate things with some sort of structure like that.
100%.
Once that is done, then the bad actors have control over the FBI's asset. By April 16th, the FBI is so concerned they have a chopper flying outside his cabin and all-day surveillance of the property. Meanwhile, for months, he's been following these intelligence figures' orders. And through their orders, he's been acting as a provocateur. He talked and manipulated the others into the plot. He helped organize it at Elohim City, and Tim McVeigh was lieutenant. What then? I'm assuming this is from the J.D. Cash article he referred to earlier. There comes a time in every botched operation when the informant has to speak out to save his own skin, and that's now, Andreas. Oh, actually, no, I think this is the, I can't remember his name. I actually have the book, and that's the next book I'm going to read, the Secret Life of Bill Clinton, or not Secret Life, the, J.D. Pritchard, or not J.D. Pritchard, because I mixed him with Cash, but Pritchard, I believe his name is. I know, I can't remember his first name. Anyways, he's the one who's noted for getting a sort of confession from Strassmeyer. Although Ken has covered this after the fact, and I guess Strassmeyer claims that's bullshit, that he kind of took him out of context, and then demanded that Pritchard then release the recording, and then Pritchard just never has. So I don't know what to make of that. But just throwing all that information out there so you know the points and the counterpoints of what we're about to read right now. All right, but it's also believable. Like, so I don't know. This is kind of like what I was already thinking before I even got to before I even found out about this Pritchard bit. But anyways, there comes a time in every botch operation where the informant has to speak out to save his own skin, and that's now Andreas. How can he shout into the telephone? What happens if it was a sting operation from the very beginning? What happens if it comes out that the plant was a provocateur? A provocateur? What if he talked and manipulated the others into it? What then? The country couldn't handle it. The relatives of the victims are going to go crazy. He's going to be held responsible for the murder of 168 people. That is true. Of course the informant can't come forward. He's scared shitless now. Sounds to me like you've got a problem, Andreas. Scheiss, which I don't even know what that means in German. But yeah, that is totally the bit from Pritchard, and that's he essentially did this thing where he pulled the OJ move, where you're like, but what if I did do it? How do you think I would have done? Like kind of that thing. Like that's what he's doing here. He's doing the kind of theoretically, well, let's just say if there was some guy in this position, kind of like I was, what exactly could have happened? That's exactly what he's doing. So the key thing we must focus on is who handled Strassmeyer out of the FBI's control to such a level one senior level agent thought he went native. Who did that? Well, why is Andy surrounded by so many spooks? Petruski, Holloway, Sharrow, all CIA. Yeah, Petruski was the first guy he linked up with, when he came to the States. Holloway is the second guy he linked up to when he came to the States. And Sharrow was the one who essentially gave him the rhetorical cover as he exited the country to kind of cover his ass of oh, guys, I have nothing to do with any of this. He's the one who did the piece on bombs. God, I always forget the title. It's but essentially the one where he slaps down strawmen of crazy conspiracies, essentially people have without actually addressing the ones that really have some credence to him, or if he does in a kind of hand wavy type way and not really addressing it, so or giving incorrect information altogether.
Right. It was wasn't it at it was Dave Holloway, right? That
these TLI, Texas Light Infantry.
Right. And he had basically driven Strassmeyer to a CIA safe house. And and that's where Cheryl had that interview with him, and of course was later outed as a CIA officer himself, which is hilarious. But not at all surprised that is exactly how you provide that false narrative, right? I don't know. It seemed like a cover narrative, clearly intended to, fall in line with the official story and distract everyone from asking any real questions. But he was rushed out of the country, huh?
Yeah. Then we have here thread on who might have handled Strassmeyer into position to act as a provocateur and also compromise an ongoing FBI operation to ensure the FBI would cover up the hijackers' activities. All right. Now, this is a thread that I'm not going to tackle right now, but let me add to folder. Morning stream ideas. There you go. See, then you guys got a little peek behind the curtains of how this works. We'll cover this one probably another day. We could dig into that one a little bit more. Kind of get into who he's implying is, possibly the compromiser here of him. All right. Meanwhile, Jesse trying to obtain a VAW index description of withheld documents from the CIA when he sued them in a FOIA trial, Freedom of Information Act. That had some interesting stuff in it. Let me see. Let me scroll through that real quick. In addition, when Jesse Trentadue sued the CIA, they provide 52 documents in a Vaughan index are described in general terms what a doc is about, all of them withheld for national security. We believe at least 2 of those docs are about Strassmeyer. All right, we're not going to get any more in the weeds on that one. But you see that's there. Oh, crap. Now I got to go find my spot again. All right, well, luckily, I was liking it as I went. All right. What is going on with this thing? Here we go. Sorry, guys. You can review the CIA Vaughan Index here. You guys can go check that on your own to look into that. But that is, I'm assuming that's referencing... Oh, this is a link to, I believe, his OKC archive. So I do want to give a shout out to that. libertarianinstitute.org/OKC. That is where you can find the largest public archive of all Oklahoma City bombing documents. So that is like the creme de la creme for digging to the Oklahoma City bombing, looking at all the different documents, articles that have been running, etc. Almost all the docs were reviewed by the judge and get classified because releasing them would supposedly be gravely damaging to national security. Here, Jesse talked about the judge and his ruling as written opinion. Not going to get all that. All right, that's it for that thread. Sorry, I'm back here. Let's scroll through the chat real quick. But all right, so we went through that. So kind of giving you an idea of how a possible Gladio thing could kind of work out and how you could kind of keep it pretty lean and have a pretty small node. But yeah, we have Daddy Falcor. He says Toad has left every Tower Gang since the last Owen guest appearance up on the YouTube. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. We do bitch at him, so he needs to delete some of the old shit. That's for sure. What's up, fellow normal humans? What is up, Biblical Anarchy Podcast? I don't know why I had a fucking brain fart in your name. Jacob Wintergrant. There we go. I am very sleepy. Here's Dr. Cabot showing up. Nice. Greetings, my friend. Oh, yeah, he was totally there and hanging out with certain KKK groups with ties to the Ozark cannibals.
Oh, my God.
I'm going to need you to get on Twitter or find some sort of way, whether you email me or whatever, to send me over these things. thelibertymovementglobal@gmail.com. Awful email, I know, but feel free to email if you have information like that, because I am curious. I would like to dig into that with it says with ties, so I would say that's probably kind of loose if I had to guess. But still, I'm interested.
Absolutely.
But, all right. I want to FOIA myself, but I don't want to have a FOIA record of me FOIA myself. What the fuck? Oh, sorry. I opened a wrong tab. But yeah, we showed kind of just there how Gladio can kind of work out, because the theory there is essentially some sort of Gladio-esque thing infiltrated an infiltration op from the FBI and made it go live. So, because I don't think that was the original intent of the PatCon operation, which a lot of people seem to think it was. I don't think. I think that would be too much to have that's large of an operation that not only is secret but is also driving it to violence. It's a lot easier to do layers, and like even if that is your ultimate goal, you can have your PatCon and then you already know, like, hey, we have this other entity that can infiltrate these PatCon nodes here and there and do whatever thing we want and be strategic about it. That would be my guess.
Yeah, I'm hoping that someday we get some sort of credible, evidence that proves that, maybe there was more of, I don't know. I've always been under the impression that potentially there were kind of um, valuable documents in regard to the Whitewater scandal playing out at the time, and um, the congressional committee investigating the Clintons at the time, and how they had just moved all these files to the Alfred P. Murrah building, and so I don't know if again, never been able to prove that is actually true, but it makes so much sense. And knowing how corrupt Clinton was, and the way that he was really utilized and tapped in as far as when he was governor, the boys on the tracks, all of the Iran Contra stuff, that all happened in Arkansas because he was the most corrupt governor in basically in the entire United States. And so they were leveraging and exploiting this, organized crime aspect of just completely, exploiting the state of Arkansas to run these covert operations through. And so it just makes it makes a lot of sense that Clinton was the one in the White House when this went live. That's all I feel.
Oh,
right?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We have white supremacy, Mormons, fake Indians, pagans, drugs, hookers, dark web, cannibals, special forces folks, all buying up property in BFE, Missouri. Sounds like a fun time. And then he says, I know a dude who went to Clinton parties back when he was governor. Wild times. I bet it was a blast. Let's bring
this
up.
Compromised, man. Epstein had 21 direct contact numbers for Bill Clinton. Go ahead, dude. I'm sorry.
More than enough. All right, we have a little mini thread here. I thought it was a fun little aside, and it'll kind of tie into something I want to talk about later. Also, this ties into Oklahoma City bombing. Here's Tanya Rivera Yiki, at Tanya Yiki, TONIAYEAKEE, or EEE, not EEE. Sorry, if you're an audio listener out there, I totally just fucked you. Yeakey. Sorry, very out of it, very tired. All right, but I just thought it was interesting. She shared this thing. This is obviously the widow of Terrence Yeakey, which is someone who was clearly murdered in relation to the Oklahoma City bombing. I have covered that extensively. It's kind of been my whole thing, or my biggest thing. So I've also interviewed her. So go check that out. My Oklahoma City playlist. That one did not get as much plays as it should have, because that should have been huge. But
she's great,
it is what it is.
Very nice person.
Oh, she's great. I love Tanya. She's awesome. She's super based too, as you can see here. She shared this guy named Red Pill Drifter. He says the Vatican has a telescope named Lucifer. The Vatican telescope Lucifer is housed in their own observatory on Mount Graham in Arizona. Lucifer stands for Large Binocular Telescope Near Infrared Utility with Camera and Integral Field Unit for Extragalactic Research. So I know it's just a fun little side. I'm not going to go into the specifics of that one, but she said of further interest was the role of Senator John McCain. He was very helpful to the Lucifer operations, which include the Vatican while he was in power all those years in Arizona. She shared an article if you guys want to check it out. I'm not going to dig into that right now. The university and its bevy of partners got its way because it has powerful politicians in its pocket, ranging from Bruce Babbitt to John McCain, and they use them relentlessly, especially the vile McCain. The university tapped McCain to push through Congress the so-called Idaho and Arizona Conservation Act of 1988. This deceptively titled law was actually a double-barrel blast in the environment. It gave the green light to legal logging in the wildlands of Idaho and for the construction of the Mount Graham telescopes, shielding them from any kind of litigation by environmentalists or Apaches. The bill passed in the dead of night. In the words of one University of Arizona lawyer, it gave the astronomers the right to move forward even if it killed every squirrel. Seems Peter Squirrel's ancestors were also dealing with political insanity as well. All right, I know that one's like super important. I just thought it was a fun aside. Also, I just kind of want to tie Tanya into this. Also, remind you guys, if you're on Twitter, she is on there. She should have a bajillion followers because, that story's fucking huge. But anyways, yeah, go check her out. But I just thought it was a fun little side. It kind of ties into, the topic here doesn't really tie into our things. I just thought it was fun. But this will tie into other stuff we're about to get into. I have one more thing for me and you, and I think after that you might bounce because I'm going to read the Dutroux affair piece after that. But But this kind of ties into what I wanted to talk about, kind of a point. I just wanted to put Tanya there in you guys' memory as we play this, and kind of the implications of this, and it also ties into our other stuff with Gladio and stuff. But this is someone shared Unacceptable Canadian Girl. I don't know who that is, but there you go. She shared this. This is huge. PBD podcast interviews Aneka Lucas, who discusses how she was trained as a sex slave and spy for David Rockefeller. At 10 years old, she was allegedly trafficked to and abused by former Canadian Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau. So this is 3 minutes, 43 seconds. I don't know if we'll play it all, because, I mean, I'm not, when it comes to Aneka, I'm not at all throwing shit in her. I just have not dug into her enough. And I just feel like with these sort of things, I bet you there's probably probably maybe even half of these types of people with these claims might be, some sort of fake Fed bullshit, misinfo. I mean, I've watched like one of her shows before with somebody else. She seems sweet. I don't know. Seems like a nice lady. She could be full of shit. I have no idea.
Manufacturing fake victims would honestly be a great way to discredit the reality behind many of the cases that are actually entirely true. So I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I want to be very clear. So if it's something that gets back to Aneka out there, I'd be open to interview. We can talk, whatever. Like, I don't know I don't know. I've never really dug into.
I'm not familiar with her, honestly.
I'm not super duper. I'm like somewhat familiar. I know of her claims. She's another one of the people, kind of like a Kathy O'Brien type deal, and like these are they've had these experiences and they're sharing them with people, and so. I don't know, now they're all about peace and love and all that stuff, and that's great. So, but I don't know. It also could be misinfo shit, so that when we talk about things like Dutroux affair, that you're like, oh, people don't be putting these dots together. There's all these crazy people out here making all these crazy claims, which I would say, because you see somebody like Aneka who has a pretty large channel, seems to be doing fairly well for herself. So I don't know if, obviously maybe people could draw the conclusion that like, oh, it's, beneficial to be some sort of fake victim. But it's like, I don't really feel like that's probably how it works. I don't feel like a lot of these fake victims these victims like really have, generally speaking, are going to be able to rise to power, or not power, but prominence.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So, I mean, you could use that as a way to confirm your own theory that she's misinfo, or just the fact that, like, hey, every now and then a few of them get through the cracks and get to be well known. I don't know. I mean, I'd like to believe she's telling the truth, although I guess what she's telling the truth is pretty dark. I don't know what I want to believe here. Point being is, I'm just throwing out here. You guys will see why I threw it out here in a second. I just think it's an interesting turn of events where we're at right now with something like a PBD playing this. But let's play this.
It's all about cover-up. It was very, very good. All the investment, all the money goes, not all the money, but it goes a lot to the image.
You gave a couple other names to me earlier. I don't want to say it until you're comfortable. One of the names was another famous politician from the West.
Yeah.
How did you meet him?
He was also there that week.
He was also there that week.
Yeah, Pierre Trudeau.
And what was the interaction with you?
Scary.
Was his wife also involved, or just him?
I didn't see his wife, or I don't know. I didn't see anybody else but him.
But you vividly remember him. And when did you know it was him later on? Because at the time you're 9, 10 years old.
Yeah, again, this came much, much later. I don't remember exactly when I realized that it was him.
You don't remember when he came to you later that it was Pierre?
No.
Justin Trudeau's father, right? That's who you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, this is strange.
And I mean, you've never mentioned his name
Feels
before,
weird, right?
right?
No. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
what was that relationship like?
Corbeau here saying
What do you
body language,
experience
but
like?
I know
Was it a one-day thing?
I
Was it a repetitive that happened?
All right, I'll tell you something.
I mean, she's pretty. This is from watching her show.
David
This is kind of
Rockefeller
how her
had me
normal
trained as
delivery
a
is anyway.
spy.
So, like,
I was a sex
I can
slave,
see how
of
people
course,
would
and I was
see this and
an
think,
elite sex slave now, and I was trained as a spy through the mind control training. And so that week, I was sleeping with men, and then I would go report on their weaknesses or their sexual preferences to David Rockefeller.
Why did he need that information? Is that how to blackmail and use it later on in negotiation?
It's hard though, because I feel like this is almost exactly how it would play out. So,
Or
Exactly, man.
if he knows what they want, then you can give it to them sexually. So about Trudeau, I said that I could never please him as long as I was alive. That's how scary that was.
You could never please him?
If I was alive.
With Trudeau?
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
It means that he couldn't kill me because at that point I was not a throwaway child. And he scared me enough so that I then tell Rockefeller that that's what he wants, a child to kill.
Wow.
And you understand that the next time he can, if he wants to use that, he can use it. He can use that information.
Rockefeller.
Mm-hmm.
So how many of these celebrities did abuse you during that specific event that you were at for you to come back and report to David?
Oh, God, I don't even remember. I was very busy. And at that time, and, I want to specify that when I was in Belgium, I always had a distance from the perpetrators, and I always knew that they were wrong and that I, was a human being and that they even...
All right, yeah, that's
when
all
I was
that
in
video.
Belgium, where's she from?
I don't know. I mean, she has an accent, obviously, but I mean, did she say Belgium there at the end?
She just said Belgium when I was in Belgium, and I was
saying.
what
all the
fuck?
things. That's why I do feel like yes, the body language feels weird. So I'm like a little bit like, what is going on
but
there?
what if you are traumatized and mind controlled?
That is very. She very much always talks like this. Stops. Really thinks about what she's saying. Like she does that normally. So I'm not even trying to pick, but that's just how her normal cadence is. So it is kind of like I could people have seen that and go, oh, I feel like she's lying. Like that's just kind of how her delivery's always been. So from the I've seen her in like one or two things, and that is she has an odd delivery. So it's like I don't know. It kind of comported with what I know of her. But if you just saw that in a vacuum and you were questioning the legitimacy of it, I could see how someone not familiar with our normal body language would be like something seems weird, but I don't know. I mean, I don't like to get too much into reading body language because, I mean, I can refer to my own life, and I'm a fucking weirdo, and I've definitely done some weird shit in like inappropriate time, like had weird like reactions inappropriate, like things like laughing when you should be crying type thing, or like weird shit like that, which people do. So it's trying to read that stuff. I always find it's a little bit like pseudoscience type shit. You're like, okay, whatever, So
especially when you don't know someone personally.
There is something to that, though. I mean, we do derive language from it. I'm just saying you can't put too much credence in it. And it is like all the stuff she says seems to confirm our biases, but it's like that's also part of why you should be careful because it is confirming your biases. So.
That's exactly what happened with Fiona Barnett, which I still have to kind of, for my own sake,
reform your ideas.
Yeah, I just really need to kind of, break down what I can prove and what I can't, and what is credible and what is not. Because, William made me really, question the legitimacy of her victim account, and that's terrible. The last thing I want is to, unfortunately prop up someone who is manufacturing some sort of false narrative, but. My God, man, this is the risk you run when you're investigating these sort of things, right? But I don't know.
Oh, I remember my whole point too. Is obviously this ties into a lot of themes we're touching on today, and I'm about to read a section of the Dutroux affair to you guys. That article, but the biggest reason why I brought this one up is I was just wanted to, and then paired it up with the Yiki one before that. It's like I mean, whether you want to say that's misinfo or not, I don't know what it is. Could be legit. Either way, I do think it is a reading of the tea leaves here and where we are in entertainment world, and like obviously something like PBD is bigger than like all the things except for other large podcasts, because like any like mainstream, quote unquote mainstream media, which are not even that, They're not mainstream. He blows them out of the water. So this is the new media landscape, like a large, and this is the equivalent of like CNN 10 years ago having an SRA survivor on, essentially. So this is where we are right now. This is the zeitgeist. So I think, for one, with things like the Dutroux affair, which is like that essentially, or, I think people are going to be more open to it. On the other flip side, I think we're at an interesting point where now things like, say, like Tanya, like if you are like already at the point where you are like SRA survivors are going on PBD, is it really that crazy that somebody like a Tanya Yiki could go on Joe Rogan or something like that? Like, that's not crazy at all. That would be like, because if anything, like, don't get me wrong, but because an SRA survivor today is the equivalent of a suicided widow 10 years ago. And what I mean by that is like in the realm of like, oh, that's ridiculous to that kind of automatic reaction people have. Right. So it's like we're at the point where large entities like PBD are, interviewing SRA survivors, and I think we are open to somewhere then taking something that is like a Tanya Yiki, covering it, something that's like pretty damn like, I think that opens a lot of people's eyes. I think we are at a point where it's like we could legitimately see shit like that in the future. And I'm calling it out there. Please people out there, clip this up, do whatever you want. I would like to see Tanya on Rogan sometime, or any like huge show that Candace Owens, something like that. You guys saw I connected her a while back, so like, and she hit me back up. So and she seems to want to cover OKC at some point. Now maybe she'll go into their own. Point being is I find it interesting that this is where we are in the media landscape. There might be some drawbacks to it, but hey, either way, fucking cool. Yeah. But all right, Austin, I don't know if you want to stick around. I'm literally just about to read for like probably 20 minutes. So, just letting you guys know out there, that's what we're about to do. So I'm not going to be a whole lot of commentary. Just going to be straight up reading. So you can stick around for it if you want. That's up to you, or you can bounce. I'm going to go through the chat in the meantime. Well, before I get into that, to talk to these guys a little bit. It says, Son of Overbrook, good afternoon, everyone. Hiya, Juan and us. Hi, man. Juan here. And Fire Pixie, I think, had asked us. I vaguely recalled someone had asked us about whether we thought she was legit or not. I don't know. She said her mother would give her to those rich people, which is the same thing X1 and X2 said, in the X dossier, for Dutroux affair. So it's like, well, it's not actually technically not a Dutroux affair. That's more the Nihul investigation. But either way, potato. Right. Yeah. So, I mean, that comports with other stuff. And then you say, Laney, I'm a huge fan of your videos, AK edits, top shelf work. Thank you. Which I almost, for a second, I was like, why did you even come to that? And I realized that intro is a Laney intro. I forgot, guys. So that, give Laney a shout out when you see him. That is dope. Jose, did you know Tim McVeigh and his Fed buddy approached Bill Cooper, and Bill didn't want anything to do with him, and Fed boy said as he was leaving to keep an eye on OKC. Yeah, I've heard that, the Bill Cooper one before. I don't know. I'm not impressed by it, but I haven't dug into it enough to maybe I'm missing something that, gives it more credibility. From my recollection, it's literally just Bill Cooper said so. So I'm sorry. That's just not really enough for me. That's what I was saying to you. She talked all about the Belgian people. I think that might be where she's from. Might be.
Hey, worth looking into that story.
Yeah. All right. I'm digging through. I got a lot from Dr. Corbeau. Sorry, guys. Scroll through. Belgium is famous for two things: chocolate and child abuse. They only make the chocolate to get the children.
That's that Colin Farrell quote from that movie. That's a great movie.
Oh, it's a Colin Farrell quote?
Yeah. It was. I forget the name of the movie though. But anyway, he's in Belgium, and that was basically a quote from his character. Mm-hmm.
Hilarious. All right, good morning from Tyler Yankee. Good morning. Just want to plug quick, having Scott Horn on tonight. He was on Dave's show yesterday, and that episode got taken off of YouTube. So it should be a good show. I'm fired up, so I'm sure Scott is also. Yeah, it should be a dope episode.
Already dead, bro.
Who, Scott?
That would be awesome. I know he's not conspiratorial at all.
No, this is not his vibe.
That's the only drawback, man. Yeah. I love Scott so much.
Just do a fully foreign policy episode.
I'm down. But
But yeah, definitely go check that out. Go check out over at God, I'm having a brain fart right now. Over at Biblical Anarchy Podcast. It's Jacob Winograd on Twitter. But yeah, go check that out. He's got Scott on tonight. Also go check on Dave's show. If you're on Twitter, go do what you can, whether listen to it, watch it on another platform. Because yeah, I got taken off YouTube. So we need to do whenever you see stuff like this, whenever YouTube fucks someone, then we need our people to go out there and do what they can to create a counter signal to essentially, whether it be, watch the fuck out of his shit on Rumble, go share his content, whatever. That way it's like, oh, you want to fucking you want to remove this from your platform? Okay, cool. It's going to do really, 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 really well on other platforms. Way to go, right. Dumbass. Like, cool. You're making yourself more, less useful to them. So, right. Yeah. Boo. All right. There's a pretty big underground of human bones coming out of Belgium on Instagram. Holy shit. All right. Well, I think now I'm just going to straight up get into the Dutroux Fair. So, yeah. Oh, by the way, never mind. Before we did that, I saw he just put this up there. Dave said he's going to put it up on X. It's already up on X. So if you want to, share it around, go ahead, share it. Also shame James Lindsay. Yeah. James Lindsay is being a giant homo. James Lindsay is a homo. All right, guys, let's get into Beyond the Dutroux Affair. Also, like I said, if you want to bounce, you can.
I need to send you an Alex Constantine article on Dutroux because I think you'll love it as well. And it's actually not definitely not as long as this, but
yeah, this one's like pretty.
You'll love it because
it seems like this pretty much covers a shitload and more. Because you can even see here the contents. There's almost 20 things. It goes into Opus Dei, Satanism,
right. It's so well organized, though.
So yeah, we're probably going to go up to 4 today, just so you guys know. We're going to go through notes forward, where things began, and I know notes sound boring, but I've already read through this, and this is stuff that's I think it's important. I mean, it may not be as interesting as stuff we go into later, but it kind of sets the stage. It gives you the idea of gives you some grasp of the credibility of the information coming out from here. So yeah. All right, I'm going to skip the first part. We actually read most of this before. So I'm just going to skip right to the beginning here. But all right, let's do it. Yeah. All right. Actually, let me tell you who it's from real quick. This is Beyond the Dutroux Affair, The Reality of Protected Child Abuse and Snuff Networks by Joel van der Rijden. So, all right. It says article is Google banned since 2017. Actually, you want to do me a favor? I really, really got to pee, and you're here. Are you able to? Well, crap, you don't have access to this, so you can't.
I'll pull it up.
Oh, you're gonna pull it up on your side of things?
Yeah, it's cool. I have the article anyway saved.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, we'll work. Okay, cool. Because I gotta pee. So if you could just read it, then I'll come back and take over.
Cool. You're good, buddy. You're good.
So yeah, I'll go ahead and start. In the meantime, I'll read this quote. Imagine everywhere you hear that story about a blackmail dossier in which organizations of the extreme right are in possession of pictures and videos of which a number of prominent people in and around Brussels have with young girls. By the way, I'm going to do that too. Fill in the blanks just because, I mean, I'll probably fuck up and so it'll be almost pointless because I'll still say it enough times that I get dinged for it. But I'm going to try to get a little bit better about saying stuff like PDF instead of the other thing, or CP, or but to where what we're doing. I know, I get it, censorship's gay, but you guys know what I'm saying. So it's why not use a slightly different word, just because it's at least I can expand the reach, so I can get this out to more people. So whatever. I'm still putting it out on YouTube, so whatever. But and I don't really feel like it's that big of a deal whether I see PDF or when what it means, anyways. All right. Anyways,
I have it pulled up now if you want me to.
Oh, do you?
Ahead. Yeah.
Well, I'll finish this quote and then you can pick up at below that. All right.
Sounds good.
Have pictures and with young girls, minors. It is said the existence of this dossier has always been vehemently denied until it was proven that testimonies and videos of this affair indeed were in the possession of the police services. An officer of the judicial police, Marnette H.G., denied the existence of these videos, while afterwards this person's superior admitted that they did exist and that they were kept with the judicial police in Brussels, but that they were completely worthless. Strange, because this stuff needs to be deposited with the registrar and not be kept in the possession of some police service. Subsequently, examining magistrate Jean-Marie Schlicker confirms that this dossier does indeed exist, but that he wishes not to give any testimonies about it. That the at first non-existing dossier turns out to exist. The videos without substance then turn out to be interesting enough, after all, to be handed over to the examining magistrate tasked with the investigation to the gang of Nijvel. But this person subsequently is afraid to testify about that. What do you think that has been going on here? September 1989, Congressman Hugo Caveliers, secretary of the Special Investigating Committee tasked with evaluating the way gangsterism and terrorism is combated in Belgium, to Humo magazine. Caveliers became a senator in 1995. All right, the next one is an X2 quote. I'll pass it off to you, and I'll run and go pee real quick. All right.
Sounds good, buddy. So this is from Victim Witness X2, and basically the quote begins by saying, "When I saw in how much trouble he got, Sergeant Michelle Kleep, who had convinced her to testify, and how my own dossier evolved, I decided to quit. In any case, even back then, you could already see how the people surrounding debates were collectively being stonewalled. They didn't stand a chance." And this is Victim Witness X2, a police officer. Because of her job, she recognized many judges and attorneys among her former abusers, and certain names and details were, of course, also given by X1 and other witnesses. And so this was in 1999, when the X dossiers were really going public. And X1, of course, victim witness Regina Loof, she explains about the media's reaction to the initially open-minded reports about the X1 case in January 1998, saying, "Only very few reporters are still listening to me. Listen to my cry for help. They are not allowed to publish or broadcast. They all tell me that they are stonewalled by their bosses. The aggression of some of the magazines, newspapers, and TV programs is frightening. This is not normal anymore. This is a war in which the victims have become disposable waste." Jesus. I got to go pee too. You can go ahead,
All right,
brother.
Cool. All right, man. All right, I will boot you. If you want to come back, you can. If not, you don't have to. It's up to you, dude.
Okay,
all right, I'm going to keep reading. All right, see you, bud. All right, guys, let's continue on with this. Now we're in notes. So, and these, this is if you guys just skip this one, it's whatever. I'm just saying this is a lot of the setting the stage, quotes, notes, stuff like that. All right. This site continues to be visited by Belgian and Dutch justice departments, just as many major news outlets. There's never been one complaint about the pictures used. Some of the earlier used America-based sources to compare the Dutroux affair have been deleted. Not reliable. Most other alternative writings on this topic tend to be superficial, partly wrong, undocumented, possibly written with damage control in mind, and/or mixed with typical disinformation. Going through these notes too, I think you'll also see why I really wanted to cover this on the show. Because he made a point in this about how it's super hard to get this out. This guy is supposedly this content shadow banned. You can find Dutroux stuff if you go on YouTube, Nihul stuff, but I don't know. I don't feel like it's a ton. And then whatever, it's good to add one more voice to the chorus. So I don't know, it might make a difference. I don't know to what extent how reliable those ones are. So something like this that seems to be pretty well investigated, but is struggling to get out there, I feel like they would appreciate someone like me doing this, giving a little bit more shine, but we'll see. All right, for all the people who have faith in the alternative media, Alex Jones only published this article as a news item on Prison Planet after paying him $500, and only did several other major alternative sites pick it up. But interestingly, soon thereafter, the amount of money offered didn't seem to matter anymore. After some initial support years back for several superficial articles, they mostly refused to link to the infinitely more detailed and more documented articles about the Pilgrims, the 1001 Club, Le Cercle, or the follow-up articles of Beyond Dutroux, which maybe we'll go into that later. We'll see. On the internet, which I guess let me know how you guys enjoy this, because this will be like a multi-episode, like the end of thing where we dig into this. So if you guys dig this, we can do longer articles like these. Let me know. Although at the end of the day, I'm probably going to do somewhat what I want, but let me know if you guys dig this or not. But on the internet, you can find several prominent skeptical articles about the only witness who ever went public, X1. It's obvious that these articles still have a huge capacity to seed doubt. Just know that all of the claims they make have been based on manipulations, as this article will show. 5. WikiLeaks did not leak the Dutroux X dossier summary file. ISGP did, here, complete with a full discussion and numerous translations into English. So I have said that a lot, that WikiLeaks is the one who released this, that leaked it. Apparently this one did. Now, I don't know where the information for WikiLeaks comes from. Maybe I'll have to look into that. There's another tab. I'll check. Maybe I'll dig into that later. So I don't know if they're saying that that WikiLeaks never dropped it. So I don't know if maybe that's false information that gets passed around, because I saw that somewhere else. I forget, because I've definitely repeated that. So sorry. Although I'm assuming this means that they are the first ones to do it and then WikiLeaks did later to kind of piggyback off it. I don't know. I'll have to look into it later. But point being is that supposedly these guys are the first ones to first release the summary file of the X dossier. All right, here's the forward. A number of Dutch and French language books have appeared on the Dutroux affair list since 1996, with one standing out above the rest. Sorry, I was looking at something else real quick. This is generally hard to get 1999 book, The X Dossiers, written by respected investigative journalist Jean Van Heeswyck, Anime Bolte, and Douglas de Koning. Page after page, they explain how the most important aspects of the whole Dutroux investigation, in which Dutroux ultimately became a minor detail, were manipulated and fully discarded. The book presented the most powerful case possible for a massive cover-up. However, there was one thing the authors couldn't do, and that was to publish the names of those who had been accused by a whole range of witnesses. The reason is obvious. If the authors would have published these names, they would have been paying damages for the rest of their lives. A lot of information in this article can be found in the book The X Dossiers, with the primary difference being that all the names of the alleged abusers have been included. This has become impossible because the Dutroux... Sorry, a little tongue-tied. This has become possible because the Dutroux dossier, including the testimonies of the X witnesses, were leaked to a number of reporters in the late 1990s. Both the final Dutroux dossier, which has largely been sanitized from any important information, and a summary of official reports from August 1996 to May to June 1997 have been used by this author to verify the claims made in a number of books and to find out the identities of the alleged abusers. Seeing the names and reading the biographies can be quite a shock initially, but it will also clarify how a cover-up of this magnitude was possible. The power of the Dutroux affair and its X dossiers is that it will enable anyone to see how a state can be controlled and undermined by a cabal that is able to place its members in crucial positions in any investigation that might lead to its own exposure, which I'm glad I got to read that, because that's kind of one of the main reasons why I wanted to cover this, the idea of how a state can be manipulated in this way. The question of why the majority of the media is so cooperative is the only aspect that cannot be fully explained in this article, although it can be shown that the media is willingly working with official investigators and manipulating and debunking all aspects of an investigation that are not appreciated by this cabal. Some might find it unethical to publish the names of mere suspects, especially when talking about child abuse. The author fully agrees with this argument, but only under normal circumstances in which an investigation is carried out the way it should be. This has not happened within the Dutroux affair, in which the honest, competent, and dedicated researchers, together with the most important witnesses, have unjustly been persecuted, harassed, tarred, and feathered by the media and the judiciary, with help from some of the alleged child abusers. That's why the investigation, which has been dead and buried for many years now, should be taken public. And let's not forget that the X dossiers involve a whole range of witnesses whose claims overlap and in many cases involve highly specific details that have been verified by detectives. It can also be argued that the mainstream press was anything but discreet in late 1996 when they published the names of the politicians Elio de Rupo and Jean-Pierre Graffe as alleged child abusers. The evidence these claims were based on was meager, to say the least, and many times less powerful than the combined testimonies of the ex-witnesses. But, of course, the purpose of this event was not to inform the public. It was an effort to discredit the rumors about high-level involvement in child abuse networks. It was known that sooner or later the ex-witnesses would reach the news, and this was one of the preemptive strikes against these witnesses. Several appendices have been attached to this article. Most of these appendices, which include a long list of accused, victims, investigators, and apparently assassinated, were more or less finished before a beginning was made with writing this article. It was actually taken about 1.5 or 1 to 5? All right, there's a little bit of a typo there. 1 to 5 years, maybe, to fill in all the biographies and translate the necessary passages of all the Dutch and French sources used. But this was definitely worth the effort, as it gave tremendous insight in what has been going on in Belgium since the late 1970s and provided some perspective to reports that have come from the United States and elsewhere. It might be the last thing you'd expect from a country with only 10 million inhabitants, but Belgium's history of internal subversion takes quite a while to get through. All right, got one more little portion, and then I will let you guys go. Oh, let's see. I think Austin left. All right, let's keep going. All right. Sorry. Where things began, Dutroux's reign of terror. In the afternoon of August 13, 1996, progress was finally made. A number of individuals were arrested on strong suspicions that they had been responsible for a wave of kidnappings of young girls. Within days, these suspicions were backed up with solid evidence, but the arrest of Dutroux and some of his associates turned out to be only the beginning of the biggest scandal in Belgian history. The media attention had begun in June 1995 with the disappearance of two 8-year-old girls, Julie Lejeune and Melissa Rousseau. Almost exactly 2 months later, the 17-year-old Anne Marchal and the 19-year-old Evche Lambrechts went missing. Additional media attention was drawn to the latter case, as the last thing these girls did was visit the show of Rosti Rostelli, a prominent magician, in which they had been hypnotized. Needless to say, the affair ended the career of the magician, even though he had almost immediately been cleared as a suspect. In late 1995, the BOB, Belgian FBI and branch of the Gendarmerie, which is kind of like their military police, I guess, largely ceased to investigate the case. However, the disappearance of Anne and Yef remained prominent because a foundation named Mark and Corinne, set up several years early and named after two teenagers who had been brutally murdered, used its limited funds to spread posters of the girls' faces all over Belgium and the Netherlands. In the end, this made no difference. The girls weren't found, nor those responsible, and in May 1996, history repeated itself. This time, the 12-year-old Sabine Sardin disappeared, and again, the Bob was unable to find the kidnappers or the girl. People became more worried for their children with every kidnapping. Confidence in the police and judiciary, traditionally already quite low, began sinking to new depths. Things changed later that year. On Friday, August 9th, 1996, the 14-year-old Laetitia Delhaize disappeared in Dutroux, a town located in the district of Neuchâtel, near the border of France and Luxembourg. Michel Brulé, prosecutor of the King of Neufchâteau, was tasked with the case and appointing examining magistrate Jacques Langlois to coordinate the investigation. When Langlois, I think the LOI means a law. I don't know. Left for vacation the following Monday, Brulé replaced him with his close colleague Jean-Marc Conneret. The latter duo had already become well known in 1994 for not being allowed to solve the murder of André Coules, a socialist politician. The same Monday that Connerat took over from Langlois, the Bob adjutant Jean-Pierre Peters reported a breakthrough in the investigation. One of the several dozen tips, two turned out to be very useful. Two witnesses had seen an old white van driving around Dutroux the day Laetitia disappeared. In one of these two cases, a student was afraid the driver of the van was planning to steal his bike. As luck would have it, the 10-year-old had a passion for cars and reported to police the exact type of van and a good chunk of its license plate. As the first three letters reminded him of the name of his sister, in no time, Dutroux's name, a known PDF, came out of the computer. A crisis meeting was held in Dutroux that evening, and the following day, Dutroux, his wife Michelle Martin, and his sidekick Michel Lever were arrested. In the following days, their testimonies led to the retrieval of two girls, Sabine and Laetitia, in Dutroux's basements. Belgium's case of the century was about to begin. All right, now that's where we're going to end it for today. Let me know how you guys think about digging into this, because this is a pretty long one, but we're going to go to all the little nooks and crannies of this story. Let me pop into the chat real quick, see what you guys have to say before I let you go. All right, let me see. All I'm saying, the stuff they do the Belgian Congo to people makes the Dutroux stuff totally unsurprising. OC LPR, love it. More. See, I can dig it. All right, so you guys dig this. All right, cool. Yeah, so this will be over the course of the next few episodes. It'll take a while going over it. But yeah, before we get out of here, actually, I should be here back tomorrow around the same time, so pop in for that. I do want to remind you guys, if you do want to support my content, patreon.com/NoWayJose2020. The lowest level is $2. That gives you the early content. for the No Way Jose episodes, which, as I said, sorry to my patrons, I'm not doing one tomorrow because it's Thanksgiving, but usually get about one of the paywalled episodes a week. It usually drops about a week earlier than everything else. Those are my normal No Way Jose episodes. You also can be a talking head on my Already Dead show with me and Austin, which is every Tuesday at 9:30 Eastern. But yeah, also I do want to give a shout out to the highest level of my patrons. Those are my sponsors. I read them off every episode as a sign of appreciation. And my co-host on Tower Gang at Tower Gang Toad, at ZOVERACK, at _Infinite Seal, Jacob Daniel of the Biblical Anarchy Podcast, Tim Tuttle, at Jolly on Klebold, and then Will Bell, makes this delicious blueberry rabbit eye wine, and the big fan of the show at Real Josh Elliott, and then Torin May. I appreciate you guys for supporting me and what I do. Yeah, please share this stuff around, guys. I do think it's important information. And also, Tanya Yiki, let's get her on Rogan. Let's do it. Guys, like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Follow me on Twitter at TowerGangJose if that's something you'd like to do. And with that, we are out here. Love y'all. Deuces.